So you're saying this is not a sellout album?
Hey, music fans, and welcome back to Soundlab Studios. Today we are going to be talking about the big one, Invisible Touch. This is Genesis's best-selling album, and one that I've always had a soft spot for. Has some of their biggest hits on it. Jacob, what are your kind of brief thoughts about this album before we start?
Well, I gotta say, I grew up listening to this album, or maybe that's the singles from this album. This was my introduction to Genesis. But I gotta say, after hearing all that Peter Gabriel stuff, all that early prog rock stuff with Phil Collins, now I'm like, how dare they go from Supper's Ready and Ripples and Scenes from a Night's Dream and give us this sellout crap. This is the worst Genesis album in history. This is worse than From Genesis to Revelation. From Genesis to Revelation is a masterpiece compared to this dung heap of a Genesis album. And I am absolutely making this stuff up as I go. I just kidding. If you didn't get the uh, no, in all honesty, I think this is a great album. Uh, my introduction to Genesis was listening to songs like, I think In Too Deep, I think honestly was the first Genesis song I ever heard. Either that or That's All from the Shapes album. And I was familiar with all 5 singles from this album. So listening to this album in full, it's like I'd say about 2/3 of this album felt like a Genesis greatest hits record.
Pretty
And
much.
hearing the full album, it's like, yeah, I can see why this was the big selling album. Just some amazing songs. It mixes what rock music was like in the 80s, Genesis continuing to experiment their sound, have a little bit of pop stuff in there. I think this is a pretty good growth, especially compared to the other 80s Genesis albums. And I think it's excellent.
Me too. Me too. I love this album. I love this album. Every song on here is just so good. Plays like a greatest hits album. Yes, it's different than the early stuff, but you can still tell that they're trying to do some stuff on here to say like, hey, we know some of you guys have been following us since the beginning, kind of like Domino. Like that's pretty much a love letter to their early fans. Tony Banks is still on fire here on the keyboards. Phil Collins with the drums. It's a great album. I'm looking forward to diving into this one. Okay, so what kind of happened with in this album is
Background information.
the uh, the last album we had was the self-titled album, and in between that, Phil Collins released a solo album called No Jacket Required. Very, very big album for him. One that I'd love to review sometime. And man, Phil Collins was basically everywhere at this point. You couldn't turn the radio on without listening and hearing either a Genesis song or a Phil Collins song on the radio. And right at the height of his popularity, this comes out, and that didn't really do much to help the people who thought Phil Collins was just everywhere. But you know what? This album really good, really good. Like I really like Phil Collins, and I really like this album. So let's go ahead and get into the track by track. We are going to start off with the first one, that is Invisible Touch.
Yeah. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think this was their only number one on the Hot 100. Is that correct?
Yep, it's their only number one.
Uh, Good song to go to number one. This album kicks off with a bang. Ever since I first heard this song, this has always been one of my favorite Genesis singles. It just kicks off with this nice uh, keyboard synth riff from Tony Banks with that awesome drumming from Phil Collins. You could just tell Phil was having the time of his life singing this song. And I have actually seen the music video where it's just the three members goofing off in a warehouse. And I think that captures the energy of this song to a T. Uh, to be honest, most of the hit songs from this album are in my top five. This one is definitely up there. This song is an absolute earworm. She seems to have an invisible touch, yeah. I sing along to it, like even after, like even when I finished listening to the album, I'm like, yeah, this is one of the biggest earworms on it, and it's just a great hit song. I can see why it was a number one hit.
Great way to start the album. I love the little drum thing that starts it. Once again, the band is recording at their studio, the farm. They're on studio, and a lot of the songs on this album, much like the last album, are built from jam sessions. This being kind of the big one. They just started jamming around and playing around on that. Dun, 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 dun. And I think Phil Collins, just without even thinking, just went, "She seems to have an invisible touch, yeah." It's like, yeah, that's how the song's gonna go. She seems to have an invisible touch, and man, that's gonna get stuck in your head. I don't know, I don't know how long it's gonna get stuck in your head when you hear that. So catchy. Um, I like Tony Banks' keyboard playing on here, and I love the key change at the end. It
Oh
switches
yeah.
to go even higher.
Oh, I
She's
love that key change.
touch, yeah.
I think probably one of my favorite key changes in any song.
Whoa. Yeah, this one is gonna get stuck in your head for days whenever you hear it. Great song. Yeah, very well deserved number one hit for these guys. Which is gonna bring us to our second song. Tonight, tonight, tonight.
All right.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is another one I'm familiar with. I didn't realize that the album version of this song is 4 minutes longer than the version I'm used to hearing on the radio because the album version has this really cool, like, synthesizer solo from Tony Banks. And then there's this cool section where Phil Collins is like, "Somebody get me out of here." And then he says, "I'm in too deep." I'm like, see what you did there. See what you did there. That's pretty clever. Uh, there's like this ominous feel about this song that I think is really cool. I love the atmosphere surrounding it. Like this is, I think, the coolest drumming I think on this album. He's on fire percussion wise on this song. Like it's insane the level he goes on this one. The vocal work is pretty good. Lyrically, the song is very nonsensical, like most Genesis songs. Like he's like singing about a monkey, and it ties into
Maybe not as
things.
nonsensical as you think it would be.
But yeah, I think it's a great one. Question is, it this one? I'm not sure if it's in my top five or not, but it's still a great song. This
Another
and
fan.
another song are competing for top five.
Wow. Yeah, another great song. Another great song. We start out with like that. Very ominous sounding synthesizers. And then Mike Rutherford is kind of just doing these like dive bombs on his guitar, like it's like very moody, setting up the atmosphere. And how's this for a first line of your song? I'm coming down like a monkey. That'll hook your listeners.
And I'm like, okay, it sticks out, that's for sure.
Yeah. Um, and then you get into that chorus, tonight, 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 whoa, gonna make it right. That sticks in your head, and then it just kind of keeps building and building. And then, yeah, that synthesizer thing in the middle is really what makes the song amazing. It's just, it sounds like you're in the jungle wandering around. Um, the song's about drug addiction. Don't do drugs, kids, because it's about like when you do drugs, you start getting addicted, and it's like you're in a cycle and you can't break out. And especially the part that really gets you is whenever he sings, "You keep telling me you got everything. You say I get everything I want. And you keep telling me you're going to help me. You're
Well, the
going to
monkey
help
line
me.
makes more sense now.
It's monkey on my back. That's what that means. Now I'm in too deep. Yeah, Jacob talked about that earlier. Foreshadowing from one of the later songs. Get me out of here. Yeah, vocally, Phil is just on fire on this song. Especially when he goes, "Get me out of here." And then there's kind of a little jam thing at the end. Man, another fantastic song. Another fantastic song. They are 2 for 2 on this one. Okay, number 3, Land of Confusion.
Oh man, this was my favorite Genesis song for the longest time. This is an amazing song. This is probably the most. If you want to say, Genesis sold out, they turned into a pop band. This is like probably the most rock song on this whole album. Especially the guitar riff from I think Mike Rutherford. Oh no, 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 no. It's pretty epic. I mean, of course, you got the percussion, of course, which is awesome, and vocally, this is another really amazing song. I think this is one where I think it had a really strong impact even in the 1980s. I'm pretty sure the backstory behind this, I'm assuming, was Cold War. And
Yeah,
then,
if you see the
then
music video, it'll all make sense.
yeah, and then you can see there's still some relevance, I think, to this song even today, and I think that's why it's still a very relatable song. It's a great chorus. Even I sing on to "These are the hands we're living.
Oh,
These are the hands we're given."
oh.
Yeah, it's another really epic song. This one is in my top 5. This one is so epic. I love it.
So we start out with another drum fill Collins. Do 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 do, and then Tony Banks is kind of just going like do 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 do, and then it's just kind of this frantic song talking about how it's a land of confusion and like all these things are going on and we need to start showing some more love and maybe it'll be a place more worth living in. I love the music video for this song where the band members are puppets.
I've seen that video. I thought it was. I was younger when I saw that video, so I thought it was creepy when I first saw it. I probably
It
get
kind
more
of
the joke now.
it's kind of a farce because they also have like Ronald Reagan in it as well, kind of navigating through some of the Cold War trials and like he like wakes up next to a monkey or something.
Again, that monkey.
Yeah, what was it with Genesis and monkeys? Or I guess
Uh,
it's a white
I think
gorilla.
I think if I remember correctly, because Ronald Reagan was he was an actor at one point. I think he starred in a famous movie about a monkey. Maybe it was a
Bedtime
reference
for
to that.
Bonzo.
Yeah.
But anyway, another hard hitting song on this album and just a fantastic song. Now we are gonna get to track number 4, In Too Deep. Now I'm in too deep.
I love this song. This is one of my absolute favorite Genesis songs. This is an amazing ballad. Like I said, this was probably the first Genesis song I ever heard. I was skimming through the radio in my car one time. In the car one time, I was just sitting in there waiting on my mom to come out of the store. I just sat in there, just like going through the radio station, see what was heard. Phil Collins, and I was familiar with Phil Collins because I knew the Disney stuff and his solo stuff, but I wasn't familiar with the Genesis stuff. And so this was kind of my introduction to that. And I was just sitting there like, wow, this song is great. Um, Man, just the slow percussion on it and how epic it is. I think this is a beautiful song. Uh, I can never think of it the same way again after hearing Christian Bale's monologue on this song in American Psycho.
It's
So,
a meditation on intangibility.
but yeah, it's a really good, it's a great song. I think I might have the lyrics mixed up, but I'm assuming the song is about the main character having an affair with somebody. And then the more he's diving in too deep into it, he's realized, I'm not at the right place. I should go back to my wife. It's a pretty cool song. I love the.
I don't think that's this song.
Yeah, really. That's a. That's a. I thought that was I thought that was the backstory behind it, but I might have messed that up. But regardless, I love this song. This is another one where I can just sing the chorus all day. You know I love you, but I just can't take it. You know I want you, but I'm playing phone games. Although I need you, I'm not gonna make it. You know I want you, but I'm in too deep. Down. Oh man, this is gonna be this is competing along with Ripples is like my favorite
Oh,
Genesis
wow.
song. I love this song to pieces.
I always took it that Phil wanted to have a serious relationship and the girl didn't, and so he has to break it off because he knows that she'll never want to have a serious relationship. That's always how I kind of took the song lyrically.
Uh, it seems like a lot of these Phil Collins Genesis songs have like multiple meanings because of how
Yeah.
complex they are. Like Ripples.
Is it about death? What is it about? Um, this is a beautiful ballad. I love it. Um, I like the keyboard that Tony Banks is playing, and then Michael come in every once in a while and do a little guitar thing. This is another one that'll have you singing along. You know I want to, but I'm in too deep. And then there's another key change on this one. Another
Mhm.
great key change on
Yeah.
this song. Listen, listen to me. I can feel your eyes go through me. Do 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 do. And there's a Tony Banks, and then it goes back to the original key again right after that.
Mhm.
Really cool, really creative, just really good songwriting on this song. It's amazing, and we're already halfway through the album.
Wow.
That is crazy. So we're gonna go on to side two. But the first song on side two is "Anything She Does."
All right. So this is the first of three songs on this album. That was a blind spot. I had never heard this song. Uh, this and Tonight are competing for top five. This song is amazing.
Oh wow.
I'm surprised this was not the sixth single because I read there was a video. I'm surprised they didn't
Yep.
push it as a single because this would have been a great single if it was pushed. This is another great earworm. It's very goofy. It doesn't take itself seriously. I love the chorus of this song. Very infectious. A little bit wordy, but it adds to the goofiness of the song. It's like anything she does. As soon as I heard the song again, re-listened to the album, I'm like, man, this is a underrated gem from Genesis. I was not familiar with this song. I think it's excellent. Man, this was a missed opportunity for another great Genesis single. But as a deep cut, I would say this is my pick for best discovery on this album.
Maybe it didn't get pushed as a single because it's about Playboy magazine.
Ah, okay. I went over my head listening to the song.
It is you live in secret drawers and decorate my garage walls. That's about Playboy magazine.
Hmm,
But this is probably my least favorite song on the album. It's a little too goofy. I mean, it's still an earworm. The chorus, I never get to. Yeah, that gets stuck in your head. But I like all the other songs on this album a little bit better. Not gonna affect my score of the album though. I just don't like it as much as the other stuff. And now, Prague fans rejoice because it's time for Domino.
So you're saying this is not a sellout album?
They probably
Yeah.
never heard this song.
No, I never heard this song either. This was another blind spot. This is the longest song on the album. It's just under 11 minutes. And this is actually a song of two parts. You have Act One called In the Glow of the Night. And it was almost a ballad like type song, a little bit of energy to it. Um, pretty neat way to open the album. I don't have as much to say about that one, to be honest. I mean, it's pretty good, but to me, the song really picks it up about uh, 4.5 minutes into the song when you have the second act, which is the last domino, because that's when the song literally turns into a ticking time bomb, and
Yeah,
it becomes like an explosive, rocking, epic piece of a song. I don't love the first part as much, but part two of this song is where it absolutely slaps. Um, I know there's a little bit of satire surrounding the song because I was paying more attention to the lyrics the second time, and if I get this correctly, I think the domino is supposed to be an atomic bomb, and the song is about the nuclear fallout of dropping an atomic bomb. And it's like, Domino, look what you have done. You unleashed chaos upon the world with the atomic bomb. I'm like, man, you got like two almost, I wouldn't necessarily say politically charged because, when I think of politically charged, I think of songs that are meant to be more divisive and polarizing. And this kind of did it in a way where it's like more relatable to the viewer, a listener. And I think they're both excellent songs in their own right. I think Mike Rutherford said this is like one of the best Genesis songs that he was a part of. I can see that because this is a
yeah.
epic song. This is like the 80s equivalent to like some of the early prog stuff on early Genesis records like Supper's Ready and Return of the Giant Hogweed, Cinema Show, some of those stuff. But it's just like an epic time bomb of a song. I really recommend this one. Another underrated Genesis song, especially for the second part.
Super cool. I like the first part too. Here in the glow of the night, boom, don't you know what you have done? And that part comes later on in the song, but
Mm-hmm.
you kind of get like,
I mean, I think it kind of like sets up the build up to the
yeah,
domino.
yeah.
So I get why it's there.
I love the part that goes dun 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 dun, and then Tony Banks has this like bow down sound on his keyboard. It's really cool. And then you get the last domino where it's like dun 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 dun. Yeah, Jacob was right. It's like a ticking time bomb. Just keeps building, and going crazy. And it's all leading up to that big line of, you gotta go, Domino. This was a big live staple. They played this pretty much all of their live shows after this. Um, man, must have been really cool to hear this live.
Oh
All the
yeah,
different, the two different sections, and they probably, when they did it live, it probably gave them room to just kind of jam out for a bit. Phil is at the top of his game vocally again on this song. Like the early to late 80s, Phil was kind of in his prime, and this is a really good example of it. I would have loved to see this tour. I would have loved to see this tour because now that we're talking about returning to prog epics, Phil Collins wanted to do Supper's Ready on this tour, but the other guys told him no.
oh man,
But they had a compromise. So the centerpiece of their show had gone from Supper's Ready to In the Cage. In the Cage was kind of the centerpiece of their show at the moment, and Phil Collins said, "Well, whenever they did In the Cage, they would do a medley. Usually, they would start out with In the Cage, and then they'd do a couple of instrumental songs, normally either Cinema Show or In That Quiet Earth, and then they'd go into Afterglow."
yeah.
And so Phil Collins said, "You know what? Instead of going into Afterglow when we do our In the Cage medley, let's do Supper's Ready, the Apocalypse and 9/8 part as the conclusion to it." And so they would play In the Cage, and then they would play In That Quiet Earth, and then they would finish out with the Apocalypse and 9/8 from Supper's Ready. Now
Wow,
that had to be crazy to see live.
that would be. Yeah, that's those are all complex pieces, especially in the cage and that section of Supper's Ready.
Yeah. So insane. But I would have loved to see this tour. And then they closed this tour with Turn It On Again, but it was like a 15-minute rendition of Turn It On Again, where in the middle they started singing a bunch of famous rock songs. They kind of went into a little medley and would do songs like I Can't Get No Satisfaction and Twist and Shout, La Bamba,
Ooh,
stuff like that.
think
kind of rock and roll classics.
Phil Collins would nail all those songs, actually.
Yeah. So, cool tour, Domino, cool song. Now we're going to get to Throwing It All Away, another single. How
Oh,
many
yeah.
singles are on this album?
5.
That's insane.
Yeah, I read earlier, I saw this on the Wikipedia page. Let me look at it. It says the 5 singles: Invisible Touch, Throwing It All Away, Land of Confusion, In Too Deep, and Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. All 5 of those songs at least reached the top 5 on the Hot 100. And that made Genesis not only the first group, but also the first foreign act to achieve this feat. And it also equaled the 5 single record set by Michael Jackson, Janet
On
Jackson, and
Thriller.
Madonna. No, I
Yeah,
think actually Bad, I think, had that record too.
I was
Well, actually,
guessing.
Bad had the record of having 5 number ones.
Yeah, I was guessing Michael Jackson would have that record. Billie
Yeah,
Jean, Beat It, Human Nature, Want to Be Starting Something, and
Thriller.
Thriller.
Those are all great songs. But yeah, going back to this song, this is another great, almost ballad-like song. This is another one where I just love the drumming on it. Like I just vibe to this song, just trying to go. Ooh, do, 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 do. This is just another banger of a song. Um, Great vocal work from Phil Collins, and I love the guitar work on the song as well for Mike Rutherford. This is, um, yeah, this one also, if you haven't guessed by now, this one also made the top 5. This is another amazing Genesis song.
Yeah, another fantastic song. Starts out with a really cool guitar thing. And then Phil Collins, again, top shape vocally. Need I say I love you? Need I say I care? I like that part where it's like, care. I think that's cool. And then he like hits this really raspy, and you know I know better, and I don't want to go. And then right before the chorus, they hit this major 7 chord that's super cool. And you're throwing it all away. You're throwing it all away. And there's that sing along kind of section. It's like, this is another song that's gonna get stuck in your head.
Oh yeah,
Oh, just another fantastic song from these guys. Like they're not really doing much with the they're not really soloing a lot and going into extended instrumentals like they do before. It's not really a proggy album, but like they're kind of instead just kind of going for, I don't know, just very well written songs rather than complex songs. And I think that's, I don't know, it works for them really well. A lot of people don't like that, but this really works for them. Just
yeah.
kind of writing.
I think they were trying to embrace the fact that they're having like mainstream radio success. So it's like, hey, let's try to make a radio friendly album while not sacrificing what made Genesis such a good band.
Yeah, and then for the people who still want the long stuff, there's Domino. So
Yeah.
I never got the hate for this album, but it's gonna lead to our closing song. It's an instrumental called "The Brazilian."
Yeah, again, people hating on this album. This is another one where it's like, I mean, they're doing another cool instrumental. Uh, this one had some really cool effects on it. I don't know how to describe the sounds on it per se, but I think this is definitely Tony Banks' show for sure.
Yeah,
He absolutely crushed it on like the keyboards, the electronic recordings. Really cool sound. Now, I think by default, because it's instrumental, it's my least favorite song on the album. Much like the song on Trick of the Tail, the Lobos. But that doesn't diminish the fact that it's still an epic way to close out this album, just to give audiences a really cool finish with some a really cool jam session with some great work, especially from Tony Banks.
is it Los Endos? No, but it's still a really cool instrumental to end this album. And this one has a lot more techno influence. It's a lot more electronic. Phil Collins is playing his electronic Simmons kit. It's an electronic drum kit rather than his actual drums. Lots of cool synthesizers on here from Tony Banks. Kind of frantic sounding percussion that's like yeah, it's just a really cool way to close the album. So what's your top 5 on this one?
Top 5. Well, I love all the songs before I say anything else. I will say, if I had to, I'll just rank all 8 songs. It's an amazing album. Brazilian is in last by default. Then I got Domino at number 7. Number 6. 6 and number 5 are tricky. But because the other song is such a great earworm and it's a great discovery, I think for the sake of this video, I'm going to put Tonight at number 6. And then kicking off the top 5, number 5, Anything She Does. So top 4. Number 4, Throwing It All Away. Number 3, Invisible Touch. Number 2, Land of Confusion. And number 1, In Too Deep.
Good choice. Oh boy, how am I going to rank these? We'll go ahead and rank all 8 as well. Number 8 is Anything She Does. Number 7 is The Brazilian. Oh boy. How do you rank these next ones? Number 6. You're going to think this is crazy. Invisible Touch.
Oh, wow.
Still love it.
That's kind of like how I was with Strawberry Fields on Magical Whiskey.
Don't get me wrong. I still love Invisible Touch, but there's just 5 songs I like better on this album.
That's pretty much me with Strawberry Fields. So I get where you're coming from.
Number 5, Land of Confusion. Number 4, Tonight. Number 3, Domino.
Ooh, all right.
Number 2, In Too Deep. That one went up a lot. That one used to be further down on my list, but it's such a good ballad. It had to be number 2. And number 1, Throwing It All Away.
It's a great choice.
I don't know. When I re-listened to this album, the last time I listened to it, I'm just like, this is such a good song. And coming right after the epic Domino, like, it's so amazing. So,
Yeah.
I have an idea, but what are you going to give this out of 10?
0 out of 10. This is the biggest insult to any Genesis. I'm just kidding. It's a 10. That's an easy 10. I'm going to say this is probably now my favorite Genesis album, topping A Trick of the Tail. This is Genesis at its peak. All 8 of these songs are epic. Yeah, it's poppier compared to other Genesis albums, but I think it does suit them, especially at the time this album was made. And all the singles on this album are, I think, what really seals the deal on why it's currently my favorite Genesis album.
I'm going to give it a 10, but I still like Trick of the Tail better. I
don't know. That's fair. It's like neck and neck for me between those two.
I guess Ripples kind of have more of a personal connection with than Throwing It All Away, but not to say that I hate this album or anything. 10 out of 10 means perfect score. I would say, well, I don't want to ruin my ranking, but we'll just say for now, not as good as Trick of the Tail. But still, this one's gonna rank pretty high on my list whenever we get to ranking these albums.
Yeah,
it's just a fun listen from start to finish.
It's definitely different from Ultimate Classic Rock, who placed this album at 13th.
Have you even listened to Calling All Stations?
I don't even know where they put Calling All Stations. I've not looked at the full lists, but
no idea. But lighten up.
I'm about to look at that ranking after we're done.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching. It's good to finally get this far in the Genesis discography. When we come back next time, we are going to be going through the 1991 album, We Can't Dance.
And
So whip out
if
your
my throat was back
CD.
on track, I would be belting out that song right now.
I can't dance. I can't talk. That's a fun song. I love the music video where they go.
I've seen that meme, but I don't think I've seen the whole video.
Oh,
My,
it's a funny video. They do that. That's only half the song when they do that. There's another part where Phil Collins is like at the beach trying to hit on a girl and like she throws sand at him and then he's in a bar and this guy steals everyone's pants at the bar.
oh wow,
You gotta watch the video. It's something else.
yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys. Remember, music is art. Art is expression. We will see you next time for We Can't Dance.